I want to ask you if you think the heavyweight division is a little bit of a mess at the moment in terms of, because we're seeing a variety of names being indexed, but fights not necessarily coming through that we think. Do you think it's a little bit confused? Usyk's not fighting. We don't know yet, but we think we know who Derek Chisora's fighting. We don't know who Moses Satoma's fighting. The only fight we don't know whether Tyson Fury is playing hide and seek with himself. We don't know what Anthony Joshua's going to be doing. The only fight that we know that's on the heavyweight horizon at this moment in time is Fabio versus Joseph Parker. Does that signal it's all a little bit icklety-picklety and a bit of a mess, or is it just all going to fall together at the right time?
I think it all falls together at the right time. I think, I had a conversation with Frank Warren about that, and fights are trying to be made. Obviously, negotiations, you'll know better than most, that you can't just get them done overnight. I think that we do see Derek Chisora out in December. We see Moses Satoma out in December. Who those opponents will be is dependent on how the negotiations go to make these fights.
Well, they were ruminating about...
Daniel Dubois, by the way, is out until next year. He won't be boxing until January.
He's not fighting December 13th?
Next year, no.
Because he's been called to fight Frank Sanchez.
Yes.
Which I don't think is a fight that particularly many people want to see Frank Sanchez, do they?
Well, listen, the IBF have ordered that for a final eliminator, so that might be his opportunity on the way back, because I think they were hoping for him to box in December. I think injuries put him out now until late January, February time. So that fight might materialise. We got Moses Satoma, and you go, where's he going? You got people like Kubrat Pulev, who's a WBA regular, hasn't boxed for over a year. He's 44 years of age. You go, what about him? He's not being mentioned at all. There's a strap right there. You've got you've got these sort of fights that could materialise.
Michael Hunter's
Michael Hunter's in the mix as well.
Yeah.
So I think we get the fights. Lawrence Okoli, there's talk of him boxing out in Nigeria December the 19th. Who will he go in against? Will it be one of those top tier fighters? I think what everyone's banking on, Simon, I think you guys will rely on this, agree on this, is Alexander Usyk he's the guy with all the belts. We don't know what's happening with them belts, when they're going to fragment. Is he going to let any of them go? And all the guys with the high positions like Agit Kabiel, who I hear Nelson Heiser might be an opponent for him at some point, now homecoming in Germany. Agit Kabiel and all those guys, they just want tick-over fights, but nothing too dangerous, because if them titles fragment, the interim champions, etc., etc., I understand it. Totally understand why we're not getting the fights that maybe we want, because of the positions that people are in.
Yeah, it's a bit of a waiting game, and you can't blame them, because obviously you tie yourself into a fight a bit like what Parker and Wardley have done at the moment, and the belts do are fragmented pretty quick. Then obviously you're stuck in a queue then, and you don't want to be in a queue. And I think at the moment, obviously, Usyk's the champion, Usyk's the man, and everyone is literally waiting for him to a bit like it is waiting.
They're in the same position. They're like the same. Bevo's got all the belts, and everyone's kind of sitting waiting. What's he going to do next? Who's he going to fight? Will he fragment? And then there's a few interim champions with certain governing bodies, and there's a lot of good fighters wanting to fight, but everyone kind of wants the world title shot, so it's a risk fight or fighting, but there's not on the line. So then
we're going to talk about you and what's happening with you in a minute, but the two fighters that we do know are fighting, and we don't yet know who they're fighting, which is Moses Satoma and Derek Chisora. Do you see, in your mind's eye, watching Moses Satoma, Callum, because we've spoken about him till the cows come home, do you think he's going to be a world title winner in 2026, as early as that?
Yeah, I do, to be honest with you. Only because of, I don't think the age of the champions, Usyk and whatnot, I don't think they've got much longer left. And I think the crop coming through, I think at the minute he beats them all. I think Kabiel's a very good fighter. I think he's probably the best coming through with him. But yeah, I don't think there's anyone else out there, like your Ergovic and stuff. I think I'd probably favour him to beat now. So yeah, I do think as quick early as 2026, we could see him become world champion. Again, depending on what Usyk does with all the belts.
Yeah, I think we see him, don't we, boxing December the 13th is the rumoured date. They're looking for an opponent for Moses right now. If he comes through that one and comes through in style, do you think it'll be his first fight in 2026 that he gets that opportunity? Because by then, I think all the titles would have fragmented. Usyk won't be able to hold on to them all because he can't make mandatories. Do you think then that's enough time for him to go into a world title shot?
Yeah, depending on the opponent in December. If it's like a Hergovich or someone at that kind of level, then the only next step up is the world title. And I think the minute they come vacant or fragment, I do think he'll take the opportunity there and then, because I don't think there's anyone out there who he probably doesn't believe he can beat. I think Usyk at the minute may be a step too far, but if Usyk does move on and they fragment, then I do think he goes for it. I think he's next in line, and I think he'll go right for it.
It's like that line, remember Russ Amber saying to us about when he was speaking with Usyk about, like, why wait? Don't wait at heavyweight and have a couple too many fights and show them what you've got. Just go for the big man. Yeah. I think that would be the case with Atomo. We know he's obviously good enough. If he's tough enough and durable enough and fit enough to do the 12 rounds, which we think he will be, then why show them any more of what you've got?
It'll be interesting to see if Jaya Pataya lands in that division, if he causes any problems for Moses Atomo, because he's going to land there sooner rather than later. I know he's on a crusade to get all of the the cruiserweight belts, but that's not playing out in timelines, and someone might have to have a word with him. You know, Mick Francis might have to word with him and say, you know, we've got perhaps bigger fish to fry in the heavyweight division, the opportunities now. Do you see 2026 being the farewell of Derek Chisora? Do you think his fight in December 13th is his last fight, or do you imagine that Derek is going to keep the bandwagon going?
You never know. I hope so for him, because he wanted to get to 50 and then get out. I hope he does that, and he, as I say, gets out healthy. That's what we all want, obviously. I think that will be the time for him, but then it also will be the time for, as you say, Opataya coming up.
Yeah.
Atoma getting a shot. Opataya will want a shot as well, but we saw Opataya on here a couple of weeks back saying he'll fight for free as long as he just gets the belts. He's
against Smith,
he just wants to get these belts tied up. So
but they can't make the fight, can
I think
they?
he can't wait.
They can't get Zoda Ramirez in the ring with him, can they?
Yeah. I think the big thing for Derek, knowing Derek as well, is he says it's 50 and out, but he goes in there against a recognisable name,
looks good,
and he wins.
Exactly.
Is he going to retire?
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean? If it's not for a world title shot and he's the IBF #1, you know, he's going to want that.
And he says he loves it, doesn't he? He just loves to fight.
Yeah. But there's a part of me, I mean, we all felt that the fight was going to be made with Daniel Dubois. That's what we felt. That was the smart man that was telling us that, right? And I'm pleased it's not, because I think that was going to be a one-sided beatdown. And I didn't want to see Derek in that sort of fight. I know no one's really done that to Derek over the years, and he's always put up a fight. But I think we're reaching a point where that was going to be more difficult and more challenging. So I'm quite pleased that he didn't have that fight. Listen, we've got the fight coming up on October the 25th, which I'm really looking forward to, which is Fabio Wardley versus Joe Parker. How do you see that fight, Callum?
It's a good fight. I think
I think it is too.
Easy to go off recent form. I think Parker's on a very good run of form. He's probably the most in form heavyweight at the minute. And Wardley wasn't great last time out against Justin Honey, is it? Looking at that, it should be a comfortable night for Parker, but you can't read too much into form, and you've got to imagine the best version of both of them. And I think it's a good fight. Wardley's heavy-handed. I think it's a big opportunity for him. He'll have that fear factor, which should bring out the best in him. But I don't know. I do think Parker's in a good run of form at the minute. I don't think Parker would.
I mean, Justice Hooney is not as good a fighter as Joseph Parker. And Justice Hooney, I was at the fight. You were at the fight, and there was obviously there was a little bit more pressure on Fabio because he was fighting in front of his home fans in a big audience where he was expected to carry the fight. And you could see it drifting away from him. And whilst he's got that equaliser, I just don't see Joe Parker being there for him to land it.
Yeah, I think with Parker, I think the position he's in, what we've just talked about, where he's next in line for a shot at the world title. I don't think he would have took the fight and risked that.
If he felt it was real risk,
wasn't very confident in it.
Well, here's one. So Joseph Parker has said that if he comes through this one and comes through unscathed, he's willing to step in and fight Moses Atomo on December the 13th. I mean, Joseph Parker, you got to hand this guy the credit, like, because he will fight anyone. He's not worried about positions and all that. Of course, he wants that shot.
It's either that or he knows it won't be made anyway, and he's just put himself on to look a little bit better. Which is what I do. I'll fight Atomo if he's ready. You know what I mean? I promise you.
It's bloody madness, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, really, truly, but you're not fighting for a title. Then you're not going to get huge amounts of money for it. So I get your back.
It's got to be risk reward, Annie. It's got to be. You're right. It's got to be risk reward.
You know, we don't know these opponents for Moses and for Derek Chisora at the moment. Are we in a position where we're waiting to see what happens with these belts, whether they will become vacant before these fights are made?
Depends if you ask Frank, if you ask George. If you ask Frank, he'll give you one answer. If you ask George, you'll get another, as you well know. So that'd be a clever. Right?
Just asking, mate. I'm asking the question.
Where do you see the journey irrespective of the outcome? I mean, Fabio's probably got, despite what Fabio's protestations are, he's probably got less to lose in this fight because most of the smart money is picking Joe Parker. Now, I don't include myself in the smart money because whatever I pick normally is the fit to pick. Right? But I've gone with Joe Parker. But where do you see both of these fighters going in 2026? If Parker wins or Wardley wins or either one of them loses, what do you see for their future in 2026?
I think if Parker wins, I think he's next in line for the WBO, whether it's against Usyk or it becomes vacant. And I think he's interim champion, so he should be elevated to full champion. Then he can fight whoever he wants, but he fights them as champion. If Wardley wins, then I don't know, he puts himself right in the same position. I think the winner of
He's
this fight...
WBA interim as well,
Yeah,
so he's in
I think
that
the winner of
position.
this fight puts himself in a very, very good position. The loser goes back in the queue, and at the minute it's a big queue to be in. There's a lot of no good heavyweights knocking on the door wanting shots, you like Coley and stuff like that, but the winner probably puts themselves as probably the best heavyweight outside the champions.
Well, let's have a listen to someone that people have been aligning themselves with for some time, and one of the biggest punchers in the heavyweight division, Deontay Wilder, who was speaking last week about his next fight.
You have a fight coming up or no?
I do have some coming up, and we're looking in January.
Okay.
I've signed the contract already, but I can't. No details
I
to
feel
be
you.
given at this point, but it's definitely live. It's gonna happen. I got a big year next year.
Okay.
So I'm looking
we're all
forward
gonna be
to
there.
it.
We're
I'm
gonna be there
excited about
watching.
it, and I hope everybody else to look forward and get excited about it too. All I can say is 2 time.
Whew.
Let's go.
Yes, sir.
I mean, the supposition is he's alluding to Anthony Joshua there in Africa. Do you think that's a fight that could be made?
Yeah, I do believe that's a fight could be made.
Irrespective of the reality that everyone is clamouring and thinking that all the money in the room goes into Fury versus Joshua, why would he potentially jump in with Deontay
Because
Wilder?
it's still a big fight, and we don't know. With Tyson Fury, showed no indication that he is coming back anytime soon. And I think that AJ is coming off a little injury. He wants to be fighting in January, back end of January, which he's talking about. Deontay Wilder, obviously, I think commercially, Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua is still huge. And I think that it's more than a winnable fight now for Joshua with the, you talk about the decline of Anthony Joshua, which, there may be a bit of a decline there, but Deontay Wilder has shown us nothing in the last couple of fights, and it's a huge fight.
It's a massive fight. It's a bit like Fury and Joshua, though, as much as I will watch it and will pay to see it and go. I wanted to see it 5 years ago, and this is another one of the fights. I think it's just like Mayweather Pacquiao, like many of the great fights that we get eventually, just a little bit too late down the line. But it's still a fight that I would still watch, and it's probably the only fight other than Fury that Joshua could probably have without sort of, losing too many people from losing interest from watching it. You know what I mean? The people will tune in to watch that.
Do we think, I mean, without being disrespectful, and I'm conscious of the fact that I'm I've never laced gloves, could never do what you guys do, but do you think that, that Deontay Wilder is now an absolute spent force? He's a done deal. The 2 performances we saw him in against Joe Parker and Zhilei Zhang are almost like saying the artist that used to be formerly Prince, the boxer that formerly used to be Deontay Wilder. Is that now just a thing of the past? That's gone now.
I'm definitely on that train, yeah. You look at those performances and you go, like, we were live at ringside for those. You're just watching him and you're going, this is a guy that is a shell of his former self. It's not a bad performance.
No.
He's not just putting in a bad
Is this
performance.
just because of the Fury trilogy?
The Fury trilogy, that's what done it. I think we saw...
Even though he came back in against Robert Helenius and knocked him out in a round,
absolutely, yeah. I think that he's always going to have that
That's that power.
That power.
Yeah, it never goes. That'll be the power.
That'll always be there, but I think that what we saw there was a guy that has become a little bit negative in his performances, a little bit gun shy.
You can see it, Spence, couldn't you, in the Fury fights?
Yeah,
I think, in my opinion, the last couple of Fury fights, you could see it.
I think it took a signs,
both of them. He was
I'm about to say that. I think
Fury,
the trilogy,
it took a lot out of Fury and all.
as much as Fury won the last 2, I think it took a lot out of Fury
and
as
possibly
well.
Fury, yeah.
Definitely.
And possibly.
People always look at the losses of how that took a lot out of him, whereas I think the tough wins can still take a lot out of a fighter, and I do believe that was the case.
What do you think about the landscape, Callum, with Usyk and Fury? I don't mean necessarily Usyk and Fury 3. I mean Usyk and Fury fighting again in the beginning of 2026. Because obviously it's all gone quiet with Usyk. We've seen the fact that he didn't have to deal with the mandatory defence against Joseph Parker because of the injury that he obviously claims he had, and with no reason to disbelieve Usyk because we all think he's a stand-up guy and has earned the right, if anyone's earned the right, to perhaps have a bit of a sabbatical. But do you think that we're going to see Fury and Usyk, not together, but fighting at the beginning of 2026?
Yeah, I'm not sure how early into 2026, but I do think Usyk fights again. I think if he had no intention of fighting, I think he'd just come out and say. I think he's been open about how many fights he wants left and stuff. So I think Fury's the one what keeps everyone guessing. He's saying he's retired, and I don't think he retires when there's a Anthony Joshua fight still on the table. I think that fight will always be there for them. I do think we will see, I hope as a fan we will see that, even though, again, I'd like to have seen that a few years ago, but I still think that is a huge fight for the
What's the landscape, do you think, boys, for Lawrence Okolie? I thought he put up a decent performance against Kevin Lerena. He still got some brickbats for it, and people still had criticism about it. Lerena's a difficult opponent. I think Lawrence was carrying a knock in that particular fight, pulled a muscle on his arm, didn't he? Yet still made Kevin Lerena, who's a dangerous opponent, sort of nullified him. What do we see as the landscape for Lawrence? Where's his direction of travel in 2026?
I spoke to him, actually. I spoke to him out in Nigeria. He was talking about, you know, he's offered everyone and anyone to fight, even against Cabiel. He said, you know, he's put his name in the hat for that fight as well. World title on the line or not, you know, interim title is good enough. So he's just looking for a fight, and I mean, he just wants the opportunity. He doesn't care who that is. He's put his name in the hat for all of them.